And I told myself, I remember telling myself this. I said, I'm never smoking again until there's $1 million liquid in my bank account. But deep down, I knew that if I got to that point without smoking, I would not. Because my dad had always told me from all the time I was young, the only thing that my dad had like always says, he's like, you have the ability to be a leader, but you squander it. You squander it. Yes. And he's like, go walk into the water. I was like, no, I'm not walking into the water. He's like, go walk into. And so I walk in, and I'm like, and I walk into the water waist deep, and I sit there, and it's like, you have to trust me. Everything's okay, right? Nothing. I thought I was gonna walk into the water and like something like was gonna happen. Nothing happened. That's how I got to where I was. Don't look up to all these people and try to copy them. Just document who you are. There are thousands of people with your same pain that have been through the same things as you, think the same as you, that will relate to exactly what you're talking about, and they will want to buy into the fact that you're able to speak about it because you've been through it.
When you first started making your money, right? Did you have that first like, oh my God moment? Like, oh my God, like yeah. Am I really spending fucking $1,000 on a damn dinner? Oh my God, am I spending $1,700? Like, not even, because when like, you first made that, like made that bread, like, did you get that jolt?
I got that, but over the small, like, I was like, yo, I can like put the gas in my car and then just leave it.
Yeah, no.
Yo, so bro, I can fill up my car, yo. And like I could like go to like Chick-fil-A and like get some food and then leave without feeling like stressed that I just spent some money. I could just like eat the food and like, oh wow, like I can just enjoy it.
Like, bro,
that was the most freeing. That was the most freeing time of my life. I made my first 10K, and I remember I have a selfie back in July of 2023. Where I was like this, and I was in Vegas for the first time. I was with my parents, and I just launched my like third business.
Bro, we're fucking shit up in Vegas when you turn 21. I'm saying that. I'm saying
you bet Vegas.
I'm going with you. I'm hosting your fucking ass.
I'll be. And when I turn 21, crazy. We'll do $1 million a month, bro. Before I turn 21. Okay, and we'll go fuck up 100K in one day.
Done.
Let's do it.
Facts, definitely. All right, guys. So we were just talking just for a little bit, but you know, we always rolling here with Convos with Bishop. My name is Marvel Bishop. You can call me Bishop. Luxury concierge host here, based in Miami. Thank you so much for the YouTube viewership. Thank you so much for everybody listening, tuning in. I have a rather very, very unique and special guest, man. Someone I've known for about over a year?
Yeah, it's been over a year.
Yeah, it's been about over a year. A person who is definitely killing it in the industry of online fitness and just teaching people how to literally scale their online fitness business. Just a motivational person as well, too, a disciplinary as well when it comes to just getting shit done. And I do believe that you definitely have one of the greatest methods when it comes to actually learning the discipline as well. And that actually starts with, that literally is the first thing when it starts with, 100%. He just moved here to Miami. And I remember the first time I had a conversation, that was actually pretty funny, but shout out to that guy BG for that.
Shout out BG.
And we talked for a little bit, and then we necessarily hear from each other. And then I just found out you're here in Miami.
Yeah.
You just popped up.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I told you on that call. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be down there at some point. You're like, yeah, whatever. Like, some fucking kid. Like,
yeah, bro. It's, and for the simple fact that he's this type of person that has a well-rounded approach in life, as far as like being very balanced, as far as like being a fucking hustler, but then also being a very gracious and just knowing how to not necessarily let it get his head at 20 years old is definitely something that's a phenomenon, man. So my guy, JohnMark Stevenson.
Dude, I appreciate you.
How are you, bro?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Now that we're flowing, the energy's good. I can't lie. Today was one of those days.
Was that before or after you lost a 2K?
That's been sticking with me all day long. I can't lie. But to be honest, like, just didn't sleep last night. I wake up at 4, woke up, my brain didn't want to work. Just had one of those days where it felt like nothing was on my side. But I mean, that's just like part of the game, right? And had calls today, was working, did my cardio. That was a struggle. It's just one of those days where it's like nothing's going right. But again, like I always preach, like when you're in a state of gratitude, and when you're in a state of like sacrifice, like if you're like pouring out, like you can't be upset. So like, come here, I've been here for 15 minutes, we're talking, I'm like already like my spirit is lifted. So everything's good. This is how you transmute the day into a good day. Like it's like with my group calls, if I'm having a shitty day, I get on a call with my elite clients. By the time I'm after that hour, I'm just buzzing. It doesn't matter where I am, it doesn't matter how tired I am. Like connection and like fellowship with other people, like communication always just boost my spirit.
To get energy, you have to create energy.
100%.
And that's how you honestly, create that good energy as well. You probably had a somewhat of a quote unquote bad day, but I don't necessarily think there's necessarily any type of like a bad day. I think everything is a lesson.
100%. Because I mean, you would, if what I always think about for myself, I'm like, okay, put me now, grab me from 8 months ago and like put me in this bad day, it would not have been a bad day, right? It's just now because my standards are always changing.
Yeah,
like
facts.
My perception is changing, right? So if you take me 8 months ago and bring me to Miami, I'm living in my dream city, getting to do what I love, going to the gym, talking to, like, it doesn't matter like what happened, but you put me in my situation now. And that's like that gratitude and that reflection on, my journey always like brings me back to like, bro, you're tripping. Like, what the fuck
Yeah, bro. The first conversation we had, I remember we were talking, and shout out to BG again. He introduced me to you, and I remember was it Zoom call?
Yeah, it was a
Zoom call, right? Yeah, it was a Zoom call.
I was on my computer. I was like, oh, I'm gonna talk to this guy.
Yeah.
You pulled up on your phone. You're like, yo, sorry, my boy.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. My bad.
No.
Yeah.
I just waited.
I feel like shit now. I remember that. I was like, yo, bro, like, what are you doing? Like,
well, I had no value. You just were getting on to be polite. Like I had nothing to offer you or anything at all. So it's like you were completely right with like making me fucking prioritizing your time. Like what was I gonna do?
I will say this though. Even that was the case, I definitely saw something in you that I don't really see, or nobody really sees in anybody else, honestly. So before we, jump forward, I should say, let's talk about the beginnings, man. Like literally almost a year and a half ago, where you were, like you had a candle business, right?
Yeah. I had a
and then now you're making $100K a month.
Masculine candles for men.
Yeah.
Called Man Torch, and it's actually a funny story.
Okay,
if I can go into detail, I just try. I think one of my biggest strong suits was the fact that I was just like, I didn't sit and like try and create the perfect business model. Now I thought about that for a while, but what I did do right that I applaud myself for was whatever I could just like act on, I did. So the very first thing I had been personal developing myself for like 2 years because I went from like 1.8 GPA, and not because I'm retarded, but genuinely because I just did not apply myself, right? I would just sit in class. I would be on my phone. I would be thinking about going outside and doing stuff, right? It's like, I like to learn, but I don't like to be programmed,
Gotcha.
right? And I think a lot of school is just programming. So
that's fair.
That's why, and I was just like wasting my life away because I was like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. I'd always wanted to be a business owner. I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but it got to the point where I was realizing like, yeah, I'm a year or 2 years away from being 18. I'm a year or 2 years away from graduating. Like, fuck have I done? I'm about to be a junior in high school. Like, I'm just drinking and smoking and looking for chicks and like how am I gonna, in 4 to 5 years support a family? Like what? Like that just started all just like all of a sudden I just started thinking about that and analyzing the people around me. Cause I'd had all these big goals and dreams when I was like 12 that, when I'm 16, 17, 18, I'm gonna have done all this. And I look back and I was like,
keep on remembering you're fucking 20. God damn it.
Yeah. And
I can be this guy's father, dog. Like low key, almost. I can be your father. Continue.
It's close. No, it's close. But that's like the theme with everyone that I meet. They're like, oh, I'm 4. I'm like, bro, you could be my fucking dad. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But and so I just looked at that and I was like, none of this, I'm not in anywhere in the position I thought I'd be when I was 17 or 18. Like, what the fuck have I done? And I really started just like, all of a sudden, I don't know if it was because of experiences I had. I was just like maturing. If I just like burnt out all the things I'd want to do, all the degenerate things. And I just got to a point where I was like, what have I actually done? Like what accomplishments have I made? Like, what have I actually done that I can sit here and I can say, yo, like I'm 17 and I've done this.
But when was that point though? Because I think that's actually very important to talk about, because you went from having a candle business, right, to now, to a very, very striving online fitness, coaching business.
So
when was that moment?
This was before so I'm going to walk you through from that point when I had that realization
Mhm.
all the way to where I was with the candle business. And then I'm going to walk you through how I actually went into a business,
Please.
a real business, right? So I'm thinking that I think it was just like a day after day thing. I'll be honest. What it probably was, I met this girl, and she
Always starts like that.
Yeah, but it wasn't even some like breakup story, anything like that. I think I genuinely met, like, for the first time, a woman who actually made me like think about why, like, I want to have a future with this woman, right?
Oh, wow.
And in that, I started being like, okay, I want to provide to this girl like what I feel like she deserves.
Mhm.
And it made me feel like she liked me for who I was, right? But I started looking at myself as like, damn, like, I can't take her to a super nice restaurant if I wanted to, right? Like, I can't do these things that I want to do with her.
Mhm.
And that made me just start to reflect on, like, wow, like, I'm 17, or, I'm about to be 18. I'm about to be in my senior year of high school, and I have this girlfriend. Like, I always envisioned that I'd be in so much better of a position
Mhm.
than I am. I'm like, what have I actually done?
Mm.
Like, if you ask my girl, like, oh, like, what's something amazing about, she could talk about like my personality and these traits, but like, I'm working at like a sandwich. I was working at like Jersey Mike's. Wasn't a crazy good athlete. Wasn't on scholarship going to anywhere in college. Didn't have a 4.0 GPA.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
went to the gym. I had a good physique, but if that's all you have, no one really cares, right? Like, no one cares about some dude who's just like a gym rat, who's a bum, who just has muscles. And like, it wasn't like my physique was like, champion bodybuilder.
Yeah.
It was just above average,
Mhm.
right?
Got it.
So I'm like, what actually defines me, right? And I always felt like I had the potential to be above average, but I was just living average.
Yeah.
And so that just day after day after day after day. And I guess it was just a maturity process of me starting to actually, like, instead of just like dopamine, 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 girls, whatever, whatever, start to be like, okay, I'm becoming a man. Like, what have I actually done? Right.
But here's the thing. So there actually has to be somewhat of an example that you actually have to look at, because kids, let's just say this, kids who
Yeah.
are actually at your age
Mhm.
don't necessarily take that shift.
Mhm.
95% of them usually just, stay within their own.
Can I be
realm of-
honest?
Go ahead.
I'll try to say something that sound like, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I'll
Okay,
say
yeah,
this.
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
had a really, really bad, I thought I had gotten this girl pregnant.
Oh,
And I sat there
see,
and I
it's
was
always
like,
with the girl, man.
and I
It's
sat there and I loved this girl to death. And I was like, not having a baby, if she would have a baby, wasn't an option. Like, I don't believe in that. Right. So I was like, how embarrassing would it be if I'm putting myself in the position with this woman where, like, I might get her pregnant, yet I can't sit here and support a child if we were to have one. And that really fucked me up because I was freaking out about it. I was like, what? Okay, my life is over. I'm like, I'm going to have to. And I sat there and I was like, I've done absolutely nothing. Her family's going to look at me and be like, look at this little degenerate fucking retard kid. Can't even support. Like, what are you doing? And it got me so low, scared me, and rubbed me in such a wrong way that I was like, I don't want to be that little, like, low life kid.
Yeah.
And that started, I literally was like, I got to change now. If I'm going to be partaking in, like, doing things like that. And it's like, bro, I mean, everyone at that age, that's like normal now, right?
Yeah,
Because of our culture.
Yeah.
But I genuinely, like, I was hard on myself and I was like, I don't want to be looked at as like the kid. Like, what? I'm working in a fucking Jersey Mike's. And like who would I be? I don't even think I'd be
Potentially
able to
even bringing a kid to this world.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so I
no,
was
I
like,
got you.
how immature and disgusting and nasty is it for me to, like, possibly be maybe bringing a kid into this world when I can't even, like, provide a lifestyle for it, let alone myself. I can't even fill up my car with gas because I'm just so undisciplined. And I knew I had, but I knew I could be making more money somehow. I knew I never ever under the impression that if someone else can do something, I can't. right? That's one thing. It's like I've always had people that I've looked up to on like YouTube my whole life.
Okay,
Always been
got
like
it, got it, got it.
watching YouTube, creating these like mentors out of people and like
Mhm.
copying their lifestyle and
Mhm,
things that
mhm.
they've done. But I've never like idolized anyone like they weren't human, right? I've never looked at any people like, that are like successful entrepreneurs or like people I looked up to, big YouTubers, and been like, oh, they're like some like godlike type of person. I've always been like, they're just a person. And I did for a while think that it was like people that were millionaires, like they were just like born, like just chosen
Yeah.
because I didn't understand money. But I never thought that any of these people were different than me, right? So I was like, if other kids are my age and they have clothing brands and
Mhm,
they're making money, if
mhm.
other kids are my age and they're successful entrepreneurs already, like there's gotta be a way that I can do the same thing if I just work hard enough. And if I'm not doing shit right now, I can't complain about my situation. And I never wanted to feel as like scared or hopeless or like, you know, non-masculine provider as I
Mm.
did, thinking about bringing a child into this world and not being able to support it and something like that.
Yeah.
That shame, and I always say shame is the greatest motivator,
Oh yeah, of course.
gave
Yeah.
me
Bullying, bring back bullying, bring back shame,
100%.
all that stuff.
It gave me so much fuel. And I think that was the spark, that was the catalyst that made me start like, oh, what have you even done? What have you now it ended up being like it wasn't a pregnancy scare. But I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad that
Yeah.
happened because
Mhm.
that it happened and there was no I'm good now. It was like, okay, now I've seen the other side.
Yeah. It gave you.
Holy shit.
It gave you the realization that can actually. It
Yeah, and
can happen.
it gave me perspective.
Yeah,
And I was like,
facts.
and so and then I started thinking about that. So I just like, one thing about me is I've always been like, I get obsessed, right? Something happens, obsessed, both feet in. I take massive amounts of growth into
Mhm.
like a certain direction when I go all in, right? But I can't be halfway in, halfway out. There's a lot of people, and I mean that's why 425, no drinking. I'd
Mhm.
rather do abstinence than moderation, right? So I just completely was like, I never want to get there again. And after like personal developing, I realized I was like, the only way for me to reach my full potential is to put all of my effort into this. So I just
Yeah.
went all in, deleted all of my social media, started like journaling every single. Oh, and on top of all that, like
Uh-huh.
I was smoking weed all the time.
Oh.
I was smoking weed. I would wake up, I would smoke, I would like
Wake
roll,
and
I would
bake.
roll it. Yeah, I would like roll a backwood. I would go to school. I had this like bong, and I would sit in the car with my best friend that like we worked out with. I would rip the bong in the parking lot.
Mhm.
I would go inside and I would just like sleep in my classes. I would come out at lunch. I would smoke again. I would come back inside. I would get home and I would just like either just like lay on the floor and watch TikTok until it was ready for me to go to the gym. The gym was like my time. That was the only thing that I prioritized, the only thing that I was disciplined in, the only thing that I loved because I thought I had all this like pain and anxiety that I was getting rid of in the gym, but it was just self-brought. I just was being a fucking retard, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't doing anything. Every single man is going to feel like they're in pain and they have a bunch of anxiety when they're not acting on the things that they're being called to do, right?
Mhm.
We can't just sit and decay. We're creatures of creation.
Yeah.
We can't just sit
Facts.
and consume all the
Facts.
time and expect to feel like
Yeah.
we're useful beings, right? And so all of that's going on, and I'm like, the one thing I had tried to said I was going to stop smoking weed so much, but I was just surrounded by so many people, all of these different things. I was going out to the bar, spending the $150 that I made and on like just like for experiences, all just stupid. So I just went through that cycle of trying to fill the void, all that stuff. And then I had that situation with that young woman that sparked that in me and I started developing. And then I realized, okay, I have to go all in, right? So long story short, I delete all my social media. I quit smoking weed, like cold turkey. I had like $1,000 bong that I had bought. Yeah, you
$1,000.
see
A
how
$1,000 bong.
you see how like fucked up my mind
Why in the
was.
God's green earth did you buy $1,000 bong?
Because I was just like I
Like,
was like that guy. Like they called me
yeah.
like because I mean I was like I was
You
like
selling too?
no, not. I didn't. I knew that if I started selling like a lot of weight, like I would like go down like Scarface, and I didn't. I didn't want to do that because I knew me. I'm all or nothing. I had a friend though. That I would like buy pack from, and he was 16 years old, and he had bought himself a Hellcat cash just from trapping. Like he was in.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I was like, yeah, I can't do that. But like I was like when I was a freshman, all the seniors would call me like Weed Jesus because I just had I had like that pack. So I was like smoking, hanging out with
Yeah.
seniors, people. So I was always around people that were older than me
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But we'll get back to that later. So took the bong outside, smashed it, broke it everywhere. And that was in my mind, like my sacrificial, like I'm done, right? A lot of people, I see them make these mistakes because I got addicted to smoking nicotine, like vaping and all that stuff when I was young because of my older sister. Like she was vaping around me when I was like 17. I wanted to be cool. You know, I started vaping back when they had like Junos and like Juuls and stuff like that. So I got into that, and before my freshman year, I actually like broke that addiction like by myself. And I realized like the way that I did it, a lot of people, they're like, oh, after this pod, like then I'll stop, right? Or like after I go through this vape, then I'll stop, right? I took mine and like I was just like, oh, this is disgusting. I gotta stop. The one I had just bought, I threw it out the window while I was driving. So that was my like letting go of, even though I just bought it.
Kind of like your release moment.
Exactly. So with the bong, I'm like, if I would have been like, well, I'll sell it. That's not me fully going in, all in, burning the boats. I'm committing, right? Because that was my thing.
You're still retrieving energy from that bond,
even
if you actually get money.
Exactly.
Completely eradicate any type of
connection.
I
smash it. I'm like losing that money, and that's my sacrifice. Like I'm done, cold turkey. And I told myself, I remember telling myself this. I said, I'm never smoking again until there's $1 million liquid in my bank account. But deep down, I knew that if I got to that point without smoking, I would never want to smoke again. But I'm telling you, I was smoking like 7 times a day, like before work, before the gym, after the gym. Once I woke up, like it was bad because I could function. I could still work.
What kind of pain were you like trying to subside? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, but to be honest, like I don't believe in it. It felt very painful in the moment, but I think it was lack of direction, overconsumption.
What were you running away? What were you running away from?
Every day, it was an accumulation of not knowing where to, like, that was my thing where I was regarded as like that guy. Like that's where I received my validation from, like I would pick up girls and they would be like, oh, you're like the guy. I was that cool like white boy that like I could smoke and like all that stuff.
Hang out with the cool
It
folks.
was my validation because like that was my thing that I could do. Like I liked rap music and I liked all that stuff, and I just found my validation in that. Right?
Yeah.
Like every time I would enjoy smoking, people because this is the best weed I've ever smoked, stuff like that. And like as immature and like stupid as it is looking back, when you're 15 and 16, and keep in mind, I was born in Alabama, homeschooled my entire life up until 6th grade, and then like snatched out of like perfect little that, moved to Atlanta. My very first year of school ever is like public school in Atlanta, 6th grade, and I'm just like boom, thrown right into the culture. So I moved to Atlanta. I haven't had a phone. Every single day has been spent like outside, like barefoot, like running around in the woods, like exploring and like learning and
really,
yeah. And then like boom, straight to Atlanta. I've got a phone. I'm talking to people that are like vaping in the bathrooms. So that was 6th grade. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Gone from like super protected. No one leaves their hometown. Everyone just like goes to Auburn or Alabama for college, and then they like all work for their parents and their parents' friends. Very sheltered. All that stuff to like boom, like Metro Boomin, Gucci Mane. Everyone's like vaping in the bathroom, and like people are like fingering each other, and it's 6th grade. I'm like, yo, what? Like genuinely, like that's what I got.
So we talking like literal culture shock.
100%. And I'm just like, oh, this is dope.
Yeah.
And I just start people like I've never been regarded as that. And then all of a sudden I'm like the new kid. All the girls are attracted to me. All this. So it's like boom, instant. And I'm like, oh, I like this. And I just instantly started running with that crowd. And it was just like a massive exponential downhill spiral.
So I know, okay. So wow, that's
when I moved from
crazy.
Alabama to I'd never even like hugged a girl in my life. So it was like massive like culture shock, boom.
Yo, John, you're too much. But let's fast forward just a little bit. So, because you said that time that you knew what you needed to be when you got rid of that bong, right?
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit. I want to talk just a little bit about like your candle business that you had, right? Because yes, some people will call it a failure, but I will call it a great lesson. And the reason why is because it led you to what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So my question for you is that what lessons did you learn from that quote unquote failure of a candle business that led you up into the successful business that you're building
All
right
right,
now.
I'm gonna simplify what I was gonna say because it's gonna make this point hits way harder. So
Perfect.
break the bong, massive self development, delete all social media, put my sights on that. I start journaling every single day, break all my bad habits. Like I'm literally just focused on like reading books, listening to podcasts, yada yada yada. Alex Hermosi, Andy Frisella, Wes Watson, all these guys just boom, 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 working on just trying to start Amazon FBA, like commercial real estate, all this stuff, right? Down the rabbit hole. And I tried to start a journal business because journaling had gotten me to where I was. Like I've journaled every single solitary day since that day I broke my bong, and I have them all journaled, right?
That's
And
dope.
so I do all
That's
that,
dope.
try to start a journal business, wanted to do it online, but then I wanted to do like a in-person one, which actually was a good idea. And looking back, it would have been successful if I did it. But everyone around me who were just like all the normies are like, oh, we're in a digital market. Nobody's going to buy an actual journal that you write in. Scared me away from doing that, even though I had put like 6 months of effort into that. So boom. Then I go into like another business where I was trying like Amazon FBA online. Boom. I can't do that. I'm realizing I don't even have enough money for like MOQs and like putting in orders. And I don't want to lose money trying to find the right product.
Yeah.
So I'm just racking my brain. I'm working like 3 different jobs. I'm like doing junk hauling. I'm doing like real estate. I'm working for this TaskRabbit app where I'm putting my weed whacker in the back of my fucking like 2006 Acura, going like weed whacking people's houses, fixing things for people, whatever I can do to get a dollar just to try and fund all these businesses. One night I come home, I'm in the shower, and for some reason my mom had put a candle in my room and like lit it. Super, super weird. I don't know why. And I turned the lights off and and I'm just like super like sweaty. I'd been working all day, like 14-hour junk hauling shift. And I like just put my head in my hands because another idea for Amazon that I've been trying to work on like had completely failed. And I'm just like, what am I going to do? Because every time I had a new idea, I was like, oh, this is the thing. It's going to make me $1 million. And I put all my effort into it. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, what is going on? And I noticed like this candle after I just like felt sorry for myself and pitied myself. So I'm like, all right, let me like wash my hair and like go to sleep. I got to create a new idea because I was set on like, I'm going to start a business. I'm not going to go to college. I just don't know what it's going to be yet. And I smell this candle and I'm like, I'm not going to lie. It's like the lights are off, the candle's on. It's like it's kind of nice. Like it's kind of nice.
It's a vibe.
And so I was like,
yeah.
I was like, I wonder if they have like man candles. And I was thinking, because I had been fantasizing about this like bachelor pad, this like penthouse in the city that I was going to have when my business was successful. I was like, that would be dope if I could like recreate that vibe with like a candle of like the, the Bruce Wayne, Patrick Bateman like type thing.
Yeah,
I was like, it would be nice. Yeah, if it didn't smell, it was like fucking like peachy pomegranate or something. So I was like, and so it sparks in my memory. And I'm like, I've never, what if there's like a candle? And I remember telling you this specifically because this is the thought I have. That I was like, that smells like Bruce Wayne's like bat cave. Like that's gotta be some. So I dry off, I get out the shower and I start looking up like candles for men, right? And I didn't do it that deep of a search, but like on the very first Google search, I see like Yankee candle and it's like midsummer night. Now keep in mind, I'm a 17-year-old, like half man, half boy. The last thing I've ever worried about is like what a fucking like a candle or anything like that. I'm not like some candle connoisseur. I don't give a shit, right? But I look and I'm like, they don't really have any like candles that like would entice me that like look like something that's like super dope, right?
Yeah,
now
facts,
they did
facts,
on like
facts.
a deeper search, but I didn't know about like the the like Dior candle or like Jeremy fragrance type of thing. I just looked up man candle and nothing really like came up that was actually cool. So I sat down and I start drawing this like, and I just had this idea, it's like man torch. And I'm like drawing out all these like, like gym smell or like, like football smell, like all these different things like that would be cool. And I'm like, that's kind of a cool idea because I've never heard of that before. And I'm looking it up and I don't see it. And I'm like, that's really, really cool. So I go to sleep, whatever. I wake up and I see all the ideas and notes that I had jotted down. So I kind of start researching it, and I realize I'm like, oh, it's actually cool. It was a good idea. Like, there's none that like I think I would buy. And then I looked and I was like, it'd be very easy. It's not going to cost a lot of money. Like I can make one candle and sell one candle and it costs me $30. I don't have to order a minimum order quantity. And I was always good at like working with my hands. So I was like, this is something that it's kind of like a craft. And I was like, but then it was just like the pride came up, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna make candles. Like, that's gay, bro. I can't do like that's, come on now. Like, come on. And then so I like dismiss it. But everything I did, it was like this, like, feel like, bro, like start the candle business. It's like, bro. And I'm like, yeah. So eventually I just got so discouraged because nothing else was working that I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it. Right. So I just went all in, started researching all this stuff. It's actually cool how you like, there's like fragrance oils and different like wax types, and you have to balance the perfect percentage of wax with the fragrance oil so that there's like,
so there's like a specific science to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can do too much fragrance oil and it doesn't smell like anything. You can do too much wax and it burns up the smell and you can't smell anything at all. So there's cold throw, like when it's not burnt. And you can smell it really loud, but then when it's burning, it smells like nothing. Or the opposite. You can't smell it at all when it's not burnt, but when it is burning, you can smell it a lot. So it's like you have to reach this like perfect formula. And so I start like Walter White, like cooking. I'm talking about like I had journals where I'm writing down like 1.4%, 2.5, and I'm like ordering all these different waxes, cooking up these candles. And over like a period of like 6 to 8 months, I created, I can't even lie, some of the dopest fucking candles ever, like Nightclub, Cuban Cigar. I had one called 007 where it was modeled after the Jean-Paul Gaultier cologne mixed with mixed with like some other. I had what the Nightclub was like Chanel Blue mixed with I forget. I think it was like tobacco vanilla, like Tom Ford. So I'm having all these like cool ass candles. It's like super, super cool. But everyone's like making fun of me, right? Because I went from like cool, popular, like, you know, like weed smoking, like I'm like one of the most popular kids in my school, which most people don't do that. Most people who start a business, they start a business because they're in like massive amounts of pain and then they have to work their way up. I went from up here to like, boom, now I'm wearing collared shirts to school and I'm reading As a Man Thinketh outside on the park bench next to the goth girls eating my meal prep. And everyone's like, what happened to this? Like, what happened to this kid, right? They're like calling me like Candle Boy and shit like that. Like very, very hard for me to deal with and like lose that status, but I was willing to sacrifice anything. And I think that was a big emotional gain that helped me understand, like I had to go from here all the way down here. And I think it really levels my head now because I can understand. Like I was able to just completely like destroy my ego, right? Because like it got to a point where I start posting videos because I'm like, okay, now I need a market. Now I need to do all this stuff. And I thought it was going to be like, I got to a point where I was doing like $3,000 a month, which only like $400 of it was profit because it costs so much money to make these candles. I'm teaching myself
a lot of overhead, right?
I'm teaching myself how to do Adobe Illustrator. Candles are breaking in the mail. I didn't understand that like that market that would buy candles for men, they want like, you know, like designer candles. They don't want some fucking weird popping out like design. I had this dude and it was like, he was flexing. There was like a torch in the middle. And then I got a more like sleek design and like all these things that I'm testing, right? And I'm posting on TikTok. I'm getting some traction a little bit. It's mostly hate because I didn't understand messaging. And what I realized was my 2 years of personal development, I was posting like personal development motivational reels trying to sell candles. So there are two completely different things. I was like, guys, if you want to be in the best shape of your life and be like super motivated, you need a man candle. Like it had nothing to do with anything, but like I was so good at the messaging and the conviction because I'd put so much emotion into the product that like I was getting some orders and people were actually like, and they would see it and they would see how cool it was. And they'd be like, bro, this smells amazing. So the few friends I had that did support me were like, bro, this is like the best smelling candle ever. It was super dope, but it was so, I would stay up like 10 hours during the night cooking candles because it would take hours and hours and hours just to fulfill orders, doing market research. Yeah, literally like I'm like Jesse and Walter White combined, like cooking it up like 99.7%. And I'm like, all this stuff. And it got to the point where I'm like posting reels and stuff on Instagram, losing hundreds of followers. Everyone's making fun of me. Like my little sister who was 14 at the time sends me a screenshot of her friends sending a group chat of one of my reels and being like, OMG, he's so weird. And I'm like, I'm 17 years old and my little sister's friends are making fun of me.
Something's wrong.
Everyone. So I just went through such a low point, but I like so much emotion that I was like, I don't give a fuck what anyone says about me. I'm so convicted by the fact that I'm going to be successful in business. They can all talk because the man I am today, driving my Lambo, living in Miami, doing what I'm doing, it was already done. I didn't know what it was going to take to get there. It was already done. enough time just hadn't elapsed and I hadn't put in the work yet.
It was already ordained.
It was already done. In my mind, every single day, I was waking up. It was already done. I just had to go through the motions. I had to go through the steps. I had to sacrifice enough. Every time someone says something about me, great, watch, great, watch.
Okay.
So that happens, and I realize I'm selling personal development. And that's the only reason people are interested in my story. I'm waking up early, posting about the candles, doing all this stuff, but it has nothing to do with the actual candles. And I realize the messaging is not working. So I go to the beach, and this is exactly what happens. Like, this is like to a T. This is not me exaggerating or not telling someone. This is exactly what happened. I've never talked about this before with anyone. And I said, I went to the beach. I spent $1,500 on a credit card on ads because I didn't understand ads. And I was like, I'm going to run ads. I'm going to spend $1,500. I'm going to make like $10K because that's how it works. So I spent $1,500. I got like 2 orders and like 150 hate comments of people calling me gay. Oh, Mr. Candleman. Like,
Mr. Candleman.
Awful, bro. So I'm just like stressed out of my mind. Like, am I like, and so this one night I go out and I'm like, I can't stop. I'm just listening to Alex Hormozi being like, you have to, the same thing over and over. Like, you got to do it. Eventually it's going to work. And I'm just like, oh, it's got to work. It's got to work. It's got to work. Yeah. And I go and I walk out on the beach and I'm just like, and I remember it was a massive full moon. No one else was at the beach. I was in Destin in 38. And just like so much stress, like I felt like I was about to start like sweating blood. Like my head is I've never even had $1,500 in my bank account before. I probably had 150, and now I'm in $1,500 of debt.
Yeah,
and like with Instagram ads, and I have to ship out candles that I just lost money on, and I have to order more stock because every time someone orders from me, I just had to play because I didn't have enough money to make them and just let them sit because it costed so much. And then people would be like, "Where's my order?" Da da da. Worse, like awful, right? But I was learning to deal with stress, and I go out and I'm just walking, and I'm like literally so much stress, and I just look up in the sky, and I'm like, I'm talking to God, and I'm like why is this happening to me, right? And deep down, I kind of felt shameful doing that because I'm like, at the end of the day, I've always been able to understand, okay, all this is happening to me. It's like, you have 2 parents, you live in America, you're not starving, you have food on the table, and they're like, you chose to take this path, right? So I can't actually sit here and be like, why is that happening? But I just felt like I'm putting in so much effort. I've done all this personal development. I'm trying to become better as much. Like literally like tears in my eyes, like no idea what to do. Like, why is this happening to me? And like, this might sound super weird. I've like never like spoke these words because I don't know, maybe it's like a bit embarrassing, but it was like a moment of faith where my only fear is being in the middle of the ocean at night with nothing around me, like falling off a cruise ship or something like that, because there's nowhere I can go. And it like, I'll feel that's the only time where I feel completely hopeless. Like that's like my main fear, right? So I would never go like swim in the ocean at night. And it's not like that I'm like scared of sharks. Like, I mean, like sharks, but I would like, that's horrifying to me is to go in the ocean at night. Cause like, I don't know what's around. I feel like I'm not in control. Right. And
were you suicidal at that time?
No.
Okay, good.
I know. I mean, when I was, that's the one thing that I've never like, I've had those thoughts before, but it's always been out of immaturity. Like, oh, I'll show them. I've never been once, and like I had like my best friend like hung himself when he was 12 years old.
Shit.
Like I've seen a lot of that, and I've just never been one to ever be entitled enough to like, oh, this life that God gave me, I'm gonna take my life out because, I always understand like that's a temporary solution for, like, or a permanent solution for temporary problems. Right.
Facts.
And, people have been in way worse situations than me. I've been through some bad things. But it's like, I've never once felt like, okay, I should take myself out of this. Right. And people have their opinions on that.
No.
But so God. I say, and I just felt this like nudge, and it was like God being like, do you trust me? And I was like, yes. And he's like, go walk into the water. I was like, no, I'm not walking into the water. He's like, go walk into the water. And I was like, no, I'm not. But it was like, I'm getting goosebumps because I felt something. No one's around. Full moon.
What time?
Dark.
What time was this?
Probably midnight or 1 a.m. Right?
Okay.
Walk into the water. No, I'm not walking to the water. Walk into the water. So I walk into the water. It's like, go waist deep. I was okay with go waist deep. I'm like, I'm not going waist deep. Like, go waist deep. Do you trust me? And so I just go, and I felt like I felt like God's presence was with me. And so I walk into and I walk in and I'm like, "Ugh," and I walk into the water waist deep and I sit there and it's like, you have to trust me. Everything is okay. Right. Nothing. I thought I was gonna walk into the water and like something like was gonna happen. Nothing happened.
Mm.
But it was like an act of faith. It was like DJ. And so I just felt that inside of me. And like maybe that's me being delusional, but I've had a relationship with the Lord since I was little, and like I can tell his voice from
Yeah.
something else.
You
Or
know the
something.
distinct
Yeah.
difference.
I know the distinct
Yeah.
difference of my father. And so I walk in there and I just felt like this sense of like peace. It was like, just trust me. Just trust me. Like this is life. Trust me. And so all of a sudden I'm like, okay. And like I felt like a bit of my stress was gone because I had taken the active face because I was horrified to go in that water. I was by myself. I was genuinely scared. Up to my waist, like right here.
I hear
was
you,
like,
bro. I hear you.
And
Yeah.
it was pitch black.
Yeah.
So I turn around and I go back and I thought all of a sudden some like idea was gonna come to me. No idea comes to me, right? So I go back to sleep and I'm like, I have to pivot. And I felt this like you need to go all in and on teaching people to develop because they're like, look at you. You don't have a successful business, but look how much your life has changed.
Mm.
You haven't smoked weed in like a year. You wake up every day early. You work hard now. You have no social media. You've read like 30 books in the past 6 weeks. In your whole life, you had never even read a book. You have all this knowledge. You're journaling every single day. You're meditating. Like, you're so happy. The only source of your pain is because of all this stress in business and you're not successful in business. Other than that, like, what about your life isn't great? And I realized like all that anxiety, everything that I had before just from my was completely gone. And like the one thing that I had was I was working towards like a purpose,
Yeah.
right? I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, but still, when I was in the flow state, when I was working towards my goals,
Uh-huh.
I felt more meaning than I had ever felt in my entire life. So I was like, there's got to be other young guys because I know so many that were in that same like feeling like horrible about themselves, no direction, yada, yada, yada. Just like talk about your story. And what I thought I was going to do is I was like, I'm going to create bodybuilding clothes because that's the one thing that stayed with me my
Mhm.
entire. It's just like the gym. The gym was always my. I need the gym. The gym clears me. I had a good
That's
physique throughout.
that's your anchor.
That's my anchor to everything. Like every single thing has been built on the back of fitness, right? Every single thing throughout that entire period, fitness, fitness, fitness. And so it's like you're making all this content about like, oh, I'm the most jacked candle maker. That's what I was my brand around. It's like that's there's no messaging behind like no one who's gonna buy candles gonna resonate with that. But start talking about your personal development. Make personal development cool, right? And so I had gone so low and all that stuff, and I was like, if I was like a role model in a bad way when I was because I literally would have, and this is like a bit like when I was a senior, or no, when I was a junior, these little like freshman dudes that I was like smoking weed with, and one of them was like, "Bro, I want to be just like you when I'm your," and I thought about that. I was like, "Bro, you don't want to be like."
I say that shit all the time.
I was like, "Bro, you don't want to."
I say that shit all the time.
But
like, yo,
genuinely
bro.
hit me. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
a role model for these kids, and like
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna
But they
follow
want,
in
but
my
but
footsteps."
they
They wanted the clout
they
because
wanted
everyone's
the-
like, "Oh,
they
John Mark." Like I was
they
known
wanted
as like John
they
Mark.
wanted the clout, but they did not necessarily want to do the work that got you here, if that makes sense.
No. I'm talking about when I was like, I was popular at
Okay,
school.
okay, gotcha. Okay.
They wanted to be like me, and I was like,
yeah,
"You,
no,
you don't."
yeah.
And I thought of
Yeah.
myself, and I felt guilty because I'm like, I'm a role model for these kids,
but in the wrong way,
in a horrible way.
Yeah,
They're like, "Oh, I want to be the like,
Yeah.
I'm wearing Jordans and I'm wearing a wife beater with a big chain to school,
Okay,
and
I got
I'm
what you're
like,
saying now.
oh,
Yeah.
that's that type of stuff."
Uh-huh.
And so I realized I was like, if I have the personality, because my dad had always told me when from all the time I was young, the only thing that my dad had like always says, he's like, you have the ability to be a leader, but you squander it. You squander it. Every single thing. He's like, you squander your ability to be a leader. You can speak like a leader, but you squander it.
Mm.
Right. And so anytime I had led, it had been in the wrong direction. And so I realized I was like, there's got to be a bunch of other men who or young men who are in the exact same position as me that like feel horrible, but they still like, oh, praising all these rappers, smoking
Yeah.
weed, doing all this stuff, like living in lust, all this stuff. What if I can make my personal development journey like cool, be a role model about like, bro, start reading books. Don't just put all your effort into like just going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like, why are you smoking weed? Like, pussy. Like, what are you doing? You know? Like,
Yeah.
why are you doing that, bro?
Yeah.
You're having sex and you can't even support a baby if you had one and all you're doing is smoking weed. Like, what the fuck are you doing, right?
If you cannot support a kid,
Yeah, you shouldn't be
should not be out
exactly.
here courting any woman.
100%.
Yeah.
Because like it's just like that's disgusting. Like
Mhm.
what the fuck is wrong with you?
Mhm.
So I started and I was like, so I had all this passion from my transformation, and I thought I was gonna start a clothing brand, and I got told I've got a buddy who he past 2 years he's made like 5 mil in a clothing brand. He's like 21. He's balling. It's called Same Potential. If you guys, I wear a lot of their clothes. Super
Okay.
cool.
Nice.
Dude has a cool story, right? And he's like, bro, you do not want to start a clothing brand. He's like, you need to be making YouTube videos. I think you should do like some type of like fitness coaching. I didn't believe that I could make money doing fitness coaching. In my mind, the reason I'd done the candles, I was like, I have to sell a product. I didn't understand like info. I didn't understand coaching. To me, that didn't make any sense. I didn't understand it. But I just started documenting my journey and talking about all these things that I was so passionate about. And since I was so relatively close to that pain that I had been in like less than a year ago, I was able to just speak to myself 9 months ago. Like, what is wrong with you? So instead of trying to create this persona like everyone's doing now of like, oh, I'm a baller, listen to me, why are you guys doing this, this, and that? I would set my phone and like I would get on YouTube and I would just speak to myself 9 months ago. Just like raw, authentic. And like, there's times where it's like literally like I'm like on the verge of tears because I'm like, bro, what are you doing? And it felt so real to the people who were watching my videos. They could literally feel the emotion pouring out of me because it was literally just like heart to heart connection. And I was preaching about my 425 wake up, and every statement that I would make online reinforced what I was actually doing.
Yeah.
So within that, I was able to build a brand and build a following. And I realized like, this is actually a thing. Like people are pouring their hearts out to me in the comment sections. Even when I had like 60 followers, I'm getting 1, 2, 3. Dude, like this is the best video I've ever watched.
Yeah.
I wasn't editing stuff. Like you can literally go back and watch my first YouTube video. It's like,
No, I watched a lot of your videos, bro.
Who is JohnMark Stevenson,
Yeah.
19-year-old fitness coach? And I changed it to that at the time. I wasn't, and I'm talking about like all these friendships that I had, I realized that they were fake. Like when I had that candle business, the beginning of my YouTube channel is when I was transitioning out of that into and then when I started the first Aggression Talk podcast, that is when I was like, I'm going full in on trying to be a fitness coach, right? So I was personal training at Crunch. I was a chef at this like 5-star winery. I was doing task grab, doing all these things, trying to funnel into that. Trying to pay off debt from the credit card that I had from the candle business, all that stuff. And I started to realize it kind of clicked. I was like, I've always kind of been good at sales, right? I've always been able to, I like speaking. I'm able to speak. I have a story. The one thing that saved me, I've been bodybuilding for like 6 years. Why don't I just try? So I didn't know what to do, but through all of that, it led me into an accumulation of like journaling, personal development. The candle business taught me how to like let people make fun of me and me be so convicted by my mission that I don't care what you have to say to me.
Do you think that the candle business made you have a hardcore shell to be able to like really like take on any of the bullshit that you be taking on right now?
100%, because the thing is, it made it so much easier because when they were like making fun of the candle business, I understood because I was like, this isn't me at all. Like me, if you look at me, I don't look on like, hey bro, I sell candles. Like that doesn't match. So I'll tell people that, but I was so convicted by the fact that I'm either going to learn from this or this is going to be my thing that I was willing to just drop my ego and go all in. So when I started the fitness coaching, it was actually, I didn't care about making candles at all, but I had an emotional investment into all the time that I spent. I could care less about candles, right? I don't care.
Facts.
So when I started preaching about something that I actually loved, fitness and coaching people, it was so easy to get behind because I had just preached about and had conviction about something that I didn't even like. So now preaching and having conviction about something I genuinely care about with my heart, it was so easy. It was so easy to take the fire because I'm like, psh, what can they say? They can't say I'm a gay candle maker now. I'm coaching fitness and I'm able to change people's lives. And so it made it that much easier. And I just like, I didn't try to make myself some person. And I just was just like, look, I'm leading by example. I had a physique and I would show people. every single day you can go look at my Instagram story. I have not
Mhm.
missed on the push-ups.
Yeah.
Not
No,
missed.
yeah.
Every single solitary day. I've made videos where I talk about it. I've not missed on my 5-4-5 method, my morning routine, my cold shower.
Yeah. So we're gonna get into that
Yeah.
real quick. So, and I do believe that's actually one of the things that separates you from everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people who are fitness coaches or just like mindset coaches, whatever. Like, they 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 preach it, but they don't really like indulge into the practice of it.
Yeah.
Like, you are literally out there 4:30 in the fucking morning on your balcony,
Yeah.
just clanging and banging.
But
just
I
doing the
was
push-ups.
in my parents' driveway.
It doesn't matter
So
where you
can,
are.
yeah, but you can see the
but
disposition of like from my parents'
So
driveway.
you see the progression of
Yeah.
what you are, right? And
Yeah.
who you are and what you embody.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that method. Like,
Mhm.
because we already have about maybe like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I really want to understand like the psyche and also like the foundation of the 5-4-5, right?
Yeah.
The 5-4-5 method. And like
Yeah.
where that.
So this ties in perfectly. When I finally got my first client, who it was like I had like a type form that people would fill out, and then I would email them and be like, yo, I'd love to get on a Google Meet call, and then I would send them a link. Super like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But again, the principle that I told at the beginning stayed true. I just tried, right? Because the fastest way to learn what to do right
Yeah.
is to learn what to do wrong, right? Because I learned what to do wrong and I was able to get to where I learned what to do right. Everyone wants to take the right step first, and then they end up never taking any step because they don't know what the right step is. Take as many wrong steps as you want. The quicker that you fail, the faster that you learn, right? So I did that and I was doing all that stuff. And when I finally signed my first client, it was for like $150 a month, right? Just like pure conviction. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a sales script, anything like that. I was just like, bro, I knew for a fact I could get this guy in shape, right? And so I sat down. I'm like, okay, I made $150 a month. How do I make a program? So I was like,
Okay.
I have every single day documented from when I started this journey. Let me go back and look. So I flip all the way back to December 10th, 2022. And I look at like, I titled it Restructure, because that was the day where I was like, fuck this, I'm done. I broke my bong. I'm like crying. Like my room's dirty, my car's dirty. Like, who am I? Like this girl that I have, I can't even take her out to eat where I want to. Like, I'm just a fucking loser.
Yeah.
I had written like 2 pages of like everything in my life that I needed to do to become who I wanted to be, and everything in my life that I needed to take out of my life who I wanted to be. And I'd sat there and I'd visualized, who do I want to be? And I just like sat and like, what do I want my life to be like when I'm like 40, right? Who do I want to be? So I wrote down like, like no sweets any day, spend an hour a day researching, real estate investment. Because that was one of the things at the time. It's like journal every single day, pray every single day, do something nice for others, like massive, massive amounts. And I was like flipping through pages and I saw that like the goals were got like smaller, smaller, smaller. And as the goals got smaller, my progress got better, because you can't like stick to doing 800 things every single solitary day. Life is too hectic for that. And so I realized, I was like, okay, the biggest thing is I was like, 3 to 5 main goals that I'm going to base the next season of my life after, right? So every single time I have like a new season, whether it's like a growth or a building phase, it's like, okay, I'm going to base this season off 3 to 5 goals. And these are like, not whenever I would make like, I'm going to make 10K a month. That's not quantifiable, right? But I'm going to post 2 videos every single solitary day. I'm going to work on myself, and I'm going to try and book, 10 or 5 calls every single day. That's quantifiable to get you to 10K a month, right? So people will be like, well, I want to have a Lamborghini Urus, right? I wrote that down so many times, and I literally have it in my journal. It's crazy. And now I'm driving one, right? But whenever I would write that, I wouldn't make progress, because like, okay, how do you get a Lamborghini Urus, right? But I can have habits that I know over a long enough time period will get me there, right? Like studying money, creating a business, things like that. So those are what my goals are about. They're like character based and like quantifiable goals. Like every single solitary thing that I say I will do, I'm going to execute on. Right. So that would be like a goal. Okay. Over the next season. And then I realized the one thing that had always stuck with me was my 4-step morning routine for a really, really long time. It's like, I started by making my bed every single solitary morning. And I'll tell you guys, this is one thing. If you've probably seen that, like, that speech on YouTube where it's that Navy SEAL guy and he's like, make your bed every morning.
Make your bed.
I thought that was so corny for the longest time. But what I realized the first morning I went to go make my bed, it was like genuinely hard mentally to make myself, because I was used to being so lazy. And then after I'd done it for like months and months and months, it literally became habit. And so I had that like epiphany that I was like, this like took actual effort and like energy for me to wake up and be like, oh, I gotta flatten my sheets and do this. But over time, it literally became like, before I'd even gotten the fucking eye boogers out of my eye, my bed was made and I hadn't even thought about it.
Here's
right?
another thing too, real quick. Not only that, but it also makes you not want to go back to bed.
Exactly. When your sheets are, oh, just
no, you don't want to lay on that shit, man, because it's perfect.
Nice.
It looks
come
nice.
Back to it, you're like, oh yeah, look at me, right?
Yeah, it's like you have to earn it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, if I were to not make my bed, I'd be like, oh, this day is done, right? Because you just, it's just like unorganized, right? Organization and structure is the fundamentals to becoming successful, becoming, a very, very high value man. But, that's a conversation for a later date, right?
Yeah.
So I realized that and I was like, okay, morning routine. And so I realized that I'd done like the 3-hour morning routine where I'm like grounding, journal, meditation, That doesn't work because by the time you finish,
too fucking long.
But I was like, me personally having like a weed smoking brain, doing all this degenerate shit, I need something that gets me in gear.
Yeah.
So I was like, something just like quick that I can do in 20 minutes, right? So it's like I like instantly hydrate like 32 ounces of like lemon water with some salt. And then I do, my 50 push-ups outside, post it for my 425 wake up. And then I do a little journal. And this is my morning routine for a long time. I do a little journal. And then I take my cold shower.
Why 425 other than 430?
I have no idea. It was 4:45 and then it was like 4:25.
Sounds cool. I mean, I got you.
That just ended up being the time where like I just stuck to it. Now it's like you can see on my like, I've convinced myself, I put myself in like a deprivation. Like, if you don't wake up at 4:25, you'll never be successful in business. People are like, well, how did you stay? I'm like, because when I would wake up in the morning, it didn't matter how tired I was. I literally convinced myself that if I didn't continue to wake up on 4:25, the day that I broke my streak, all the progress that I had was gone and I would never be successful in business. So when you wake up in the morning, it's like, I would literally feel like my brain would be like, you have to go back to bed. It's been like that alarm would go off. Because when you're not used to waking up at 4, it's a fucking different world. It feels weird,
it's
right?
Crazy.
Now it's habit. I just like rise, right? And the only way I got through that is because I put so much, like, my success is like life or death relies on that. And that was a delusion. But I believe that every single person has that. We either have, like positive or negative delusions, right? You can have the delusion that you'll never be successful, and that's probably true. Or you can have the delusion that you're going to be a 100 billionaire. And that's probably true if you actually have a big enough delusion. The same person can have 2 different delusions. It just depends on which one you choose. So I created the delusion that if I didn't wake up at 4:25, no matter what, I was going to be some like addict on the street who was homeless and And I just like thought about that every single day. So I created massive pain that I was running from. So back to my topic, I had 5 goals that I was working towards, a 4-step morning routine, because I realized this is what I had done that had transformed my life. 4-step morning routine that reflected those goals, right? So it's like health, my habits, waking up early, the man that I want to become. And then every day, the night before, on that journal where I wrote out my morning routine, my 5 most important things I needed to do the next day. So it was like 5-4-5, the 5-4-5 method. And I realized that was the one thing that had stayed true to me throughout the entire time. And I still do this to this day. So the biggest thing that this guy wanted, he was like, well, how do I like stay consistent with this? I built him a fitness program. I built him a nutrition program. We all know that the information's all the same, but how do you stay consistent? So I created a way for him to have his own 5-4-5 so that we could track what he's working towards. He has a morning routine. That changes your life because your lifestyle will never exceed your level of personal development. So as he starts to do this, he starts to correlate wins in the morning with wins in the gym. He starts to correlate, he's waking up. Well, I already woke up early and I got these 4 wins in the morning, boom, 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 back to back. I might as well track my macros. I might as well eat good, right? And you stay on a roll. You stay on a roll. And then your brain, you literally create new neurological pathways that instead of associating hard work with like, like difficulty, you associate hard work with reward.
It's a beautiful snowball effect.
100%. And then every win that he gets, and then he goes back into the position where he crashes his diet for a week and he's like, wow, this is the worst I've fucking felt ever. And then he has the disposition again to be like, wow, you know how good I felt when I was locked in, when I was on my 5-4-5, right? So now I have a super, super complex system where even my business clients, because 5-4-5's got my personal development in shape and also helped me build my business to $100K a month at 20.
Say that one more time.
$100K a month.
$100K a month at 20 years old.
At 20. And so now I have like a super high level dashboard.
I was about to do this, bro. There you go.
And I'm tweeting, it's the Versace shades.
Yeah.
And I still do that. So we track that. Like I look over all of my one-on-one clients' dashboards because you can literally see a correlation between like how much money they're making and how consistent they are with their habits, right?
Yeah.
Because they miss their wake up. You don't have to wake up at 4 like me. You don't have to be deranged, right? But you want to be consistent because it's like as soon as you make the decision, like I'll sleep in a bit later.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make my bed. I'm not gonna. It might be okay one day, but
Yeah.
money's a lagging indicator and success is a
Yeah,
lagging
facts.
indicator.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
that week, maybe you make money from the hard work that you put in the month before, but the week after, you start to see the effect of your lack of discipline the week after. So it's like, oh, bro, like I'm not signing as much clients as I am. My videos aren't doing as good. And like a coach might say that to me. I'm like, well, you missed your 5 for 5 like 4 times last week. And I'm like, it's that simple because like, how do you have conviction to hold your clients accountable if you're not holding yourself accountable? The reason why I was able to speak with so much conviction in my videos is because it was 5 in the fucking morning. I had just smashed 45 minutes of cardio and I was living in the moment. So it was like an emotional outpour of like, I'm speaking exactly what I'm doing. And you see all these people that speak about things that they're not doing. I literally will see 16-year-old kids trying to be a business coach and like, bro, if you don't get your habits together, you'll never get a Ferrari. I'm like, bro, you're in your mom's fucking kitchen, right? Like, speak about things you've done. And I didn't come onto the scene trying to do that. I spoke about what I had credibility on. I'm like, you gotta wake up. I've been waking up at 4 for the past 60 days. I've been holding myself accountable.
Bro.
So every single thing that I did, I became an expert in it. And then I preached it. And I was able to walk and I was able to lead by example.
And I think here's the thing that I want to, we have to wrap up for a little bit. Roger, how much time we got? No, I'm saying like how much time do I have? Okay, good, got it. So I think the beautiful thing about you is that even though you are at a young age, you have the track record of to show like where you necessarily came from, and you stayed very, very true to yourself. And I do believe that once people who are in your line of business does not necessarily talk outside of what they know, but actually talk what actually they do know, that's honestly like where they'll be able to really take that step by step. So, bro, I think this has been incredible. One last thing.
We need to do a part 2.
We'll do a part 2 because I have to get into other shit too. But this is actually a great, introduction for like,
we can rip like a 3-hour pod.
Easy. But to wrap up, right? What are 3 to 5 tips that you would give someone that is looking to get into online coaching right now? Other than, the morning routines and all that stuff. We already talked about that. Something else.
Very, very first thing, above all, document, do not create. Don't try to create a persona, document a persona, right? Everyone tries to come in and like be like, I'm going to apply myself into this niche. You are the niche. Document yourself. People will relate to it. That becomes your business. That's what I did. I just documented who I was. I didn't try to be like, I'm a successful fitness coach. I said, I am disciplined, and I showed them. I am this, and I showed them, right? People wanted to buy into that. All I did was document my process. That's how I got to where I was. Don't look up to all these people and try to copy them. Just document who you are. There are thousands of people with your same pain, have been through the same things as you, think the same as you, that will relate to exactly what you're talking about. And they will want to buy into the fact that you're able to speak about it because you've been through it. And they'll relate to the fact that you feel they feel like you understand them and you're going to be able to push them and hold them accountable, right? So that's the whole entire coaching model. Document, don't create. Second is sacrifice in the present for yourself in the future. Every single thing that you do, if you apply that to your life, that is the one principle that you can live by, that you'll literally like everything will go right for you. Now, life has its ups and downs, right? But if you always make the sacrifice in the moment, in every single solitary situation, when I say sacrifice, I mean by choosing what's going to benefit you long-term instead of what's going to make you feel good in the moment. That is the number one. It's just delayed gratification. It's delayed gratification because the biggest thing with me, I would always have all this anxiety because I was putting my present burden on my future self.
Got it.
And it becomes heavier. So if you just chomp something in the moment, like Brian Tracy says, eat that frog, you have freedom to look forward to like doing whatever you want. It's done. You've released yourself of that burden. But when you put it on your future self, you're looking forward to pain, and that creates anxiety. You have a project that needs to be done. I'll do it tomorrow. You feel okay, but you can't even enjoy the moment because you're looking forward to pain.
Yeah.
If you just eat it now, chances are it's not going to be that difficult anyways if you make yourself do it, and then you can actually enjoy the moment. You go watch a movie instead of, doing the shit that you need to do. You can't even enjoy the movie because you're looking forward to the pain and you're feeling the burden, and it becomes bigger, right? So always sacrifice in the present for yourself in the future. The last one.
If there is a last one.
No, there will be a last one. It'll come to me. Infinite intelligence, it will come to me. Because I don't script anything. It just comes to my mind. I would say look at every single solitary problem, every single solitary conflict, and every single solitary roadblock as more equipment and a stepping stone to your success.
Perfect.
Right? Because if you don't go through massive business failure, if you don't have to go through massive stress, handle a bunch of chargebacks, handle losing a bunch of money, you'll never gain the skill of being able to manage stress as a highly talented CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And if you never go through that, you'll never, ever be granted the position of a highly talented business owner because you didn't have to work the skill.
I got you.
Every single thing that stands in front of you,
yeah,
it's not there to harm you. It's there to build you. And people always say that. They're like, if everything around you is dark and you feel like, everything's being put on you and you're being buried, you're actually being planted, right? It's real, but I feel like our brains have become so numb to these quotes. We're like, yeah, but that's not my problem. I'm telling you, the quote, the depth of your struggle determines the height of your success, is literally so real. And even now, the problems that I face now, I still have those moments where I'm like, oh, it's over. Like everything, the more progress I make, the greater my problems are going to be because it takes way more force to accelerate me to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Level 1 to level 2 might be 2 inches, right? Level 7 to level 8 might be 4 feet.
Yeah.
So the amount of changing and the amount of pain that you have to go through to change the 2 inches isn't that much, but to change the 4 feet is a lot. So as you get better, anticipate more problems. But the thing is, the problems never go away. The problems never get easier. You just get more talented. You get more talented.
Yeah.
The dragon doesn't get smaller.
Yeah.
But your sword becomes bigger and it becomes sharper.
Yeah.
And you become more talented with the sword. So you can slay the dragon, right? So don't let the size of your problems discomfort you, and don't look at them in dismay. Look at them in exhilaration, because it's like, oh, bro, when I slay this dragon, what kind of power up am I going to have next?
Yeah.
What am I going to be able to manage next? What opportunities are going to lie in front of me next?
No, well said.
And when you think about it like that, everything becomes a game.
Yeah, bro, man. Phenomenal, man. Honestly, it's kind of mind-boggling that this guy is only 20 years old. That's the crazy part, man. But yo, JohnMark, man, I really appreciate you. Real quick, it's going to be called, my last segment that I have is called The Last Call. I'm going to give you a few words. I need the first thought that's going to come to your head. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Alabama.
Yeehaw.
Atlanta.
Falcons.
Your first job.
Lifeguarding.
Okay. How did you
miserable.
Okay. Your first love.
How do I say teaching in the present moment? Teach it. I learned.
A teachable moment.
Yeah, teachable moment.
Okay. And the last one, JohnMark. I got one. I can get one for you. A motherfucker that's coming for it all.
Yes, sir. I like that.
Yeah, definitely, man. Hey, man, real quick, man, we give you some shout outs, some shameless plug where we can find you and everything else too.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up.
YouTube, JohnMark Stevenson, JohnMark, and then just Stevenson with the V. Instagram, JohnMark STEV. I just created a TikTok account a week ago. I don't really post on it, but it's just, if you look up JohnMark, it's gonna be that. The TikTok algorithm's easy because if you just spit truth, people get really mad because they don't because bro, truth, love ain't lies, bro. Truth hurts.
Yeah, definitely.
You're speaking the truth. It gets under people's skin. But brother, I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much for your time, man. We're definitely gonna do another one. And man, let's crush it, bro.
Let's do it.
Only the best. Thanks, guys.